right, great. We can get started, I guess. So I will come back and okay. Thank you, everyone. Welcome tonight. Today, we're going to talk to Red Panda Network and Terrance Fleming, who's a development manager for Red Panda Network. My name's Tom Snyder. I'm the Director of Programming and Conservation Action for Seneca Park Zoo. We really want to welcome you to this event. We are kicking off our Red Panda Week, and I'd like to say hi to Terrance. So how are you doing, Terrance?
I'm good. I was muted.
Oh, sorry. Hey, no, you don't know how to do Zoom at this point in 2020?
No, right, yeah. I'm great. How are you? Thanks so much for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah, and thanks for coming. Now, we were just talking. You're out in Oregon right now, so it's about 2 o'clock your time. When I went to your website and to do a little research on you, and it says, of course, development manager, it looked like the U.S. team was kind of small and compact for Red Panda Network. So you were saying you're pretty much all virtual at this point, right?
Yeah, we're working remotely. There's only 2 of us in the U.S. as far as staff members, and we work in a small basement office in downtown Eugene. But for obvious reason, the last 7 months we've been working fully at home remotely.
Yeah, great. All right. So again, thanks for coming. We really appreciate it. For everybody that's here watching this tonight, if you haven't used Zoom before, on the bottom of your screen, you can ask a question. And if you have any of those questions during this presentation or during our discussion, I urge you just to ask them, because this is really a discussion. While we do have a PowerPoint and some photos and even one short video, this is really a discussion that's meant to be moving for the next 20, 25, 30 minutes. So please ask your question in that room, and we'll make sure that Terrance gets that. Also, if there's a chat and you want to keep involved in that, you can go ahead and click in the chat and chat right along with us in there. So with that, we'll get started here. And again, we are in Red Panda Week here at Seneca Park Zoo. So if you haven't stopped by, as we preface everything with COVID changing everything, we did not want to do a single day event. We'll get to the events that you have here, Terrance, in a bit before the end of this, so you can promote that and hopefully get some of these people over to see yours. But if you come by the zoo anytime this week throughout the day, we'll have increased enrichments, increases in feedings, and we'll have naturalists on site. So you'll be able to speak from small groups to keepers or naturalists on site and learn about the red pandas and all the great, exciting news we have there this week. And then also you can order via the website, senecaparkzoo.org, by midnight tonight. If you want to order one of our dinners for Saturday night, it's dinners at home and everything's all set. All you have to do is take it home, and we're going to donate a portion of proceeds to Red Panda Network for those as well. So hopefully we'll see that soon. Terrance, you sent me some photos and videos. I'm going to play a short 1-minute video that gives everybody an overview, and then we'll come back and start discussing some of the things that we see in the video and some of the future of Red Panda, okay? All right, and I think I might have even screwed up bigger than you did there, Terrance, and might have shared the wrong part of the screen. I don't know if I did that or not, but we'll try it back again. So if I did, I apologize for that. All right. So the Red Panda, we have this wonderful resource that we look at that is IUCN and Red List. And when you look at this map on the right and the animal card that they have on there, we see that they're decreasing in population. And that looks like a really specialized area and geographic range and habitat. So what do you find is really the situation for red pandas right now as a species?
I've been putting myself on mute because my mouse is really loud on this computer when I move it, so I didn't want all this clanking to happen while you're
No worries.
while you're talking. So yeah, so the situation is complicated. Red pandas are a unique species for a lot of reasons. As we were talking about before, they're not a megafauna, so they're not targeted the same way you'd say like a tiger or a rhino is, specifically in regards to poaching. There is an illegal red panda trade, which is affecting their population, but the demand isn't on the same level as megafauna species that are in high demand. So what is most devastating to their populations is deforestation. And a lot of that is due to local people living in poverty and needing to rely on forest resources to live. So, we're talking firewood, we're talking space to graze their livestock, food, income, all this stuff, which creates pressure on forests and forest resources, which degrades the forest and fragments it. And so essentially it's probably like a lot of species, it's due to poverty and high demand for natural resources.
I think that this is, so we haven't had red pandas at our zoo for too long. And when we're going through the planning process to see what organization we're going to support and how we're going to find this, right? There's not too many red panda conservation organizations, right? In fact, you really are it in a whole lot of ways. So, when I hear your answer that you're looking at humans first, essentially, right? To me, that's of utmost importance. And that shows me that you're looking more sustainability and really large scale ecosystem, one health, one planet type approach to all of this. What can you speak a little bit to that about what philosophy you all have? And I get you have a small team here, so the majority of your team is over in situ and in country, right?
Exactly, yeah. So the heart of our work is sustainable livelihoods. Our programs are community based, so our programs are all meant to help red pandas flourish, but they're also designed to help local communities flourish. And sort of as I was explaining earlier, if people are really struggling to make their ends meet in order to feed their families and to stay warm and just to meet all their livelihood needs, it makes it really difficult to prioritize conservation. Our director in Nepal, our country director, he has a saying that essentially goes, conservation cannot happen on an empty stomach. Right. And so, if we can't help these people find some stability and some sustainability in their lives, then it's going to be really difficult to save red pandas. And so that's what we lead with in our work.
And so one of the things that we support is really planning a red panda home, right? And the pit forest and some of these things. And as we're talking, we have a few slideshows, images going through of what some of the reforestation. And I'm going to go back just real quick to show this slide again, which is in stark contrast to the slide before it, right? This is prime habitat right here, right? And this is what you're looking to replicate. And this is what it looks like in certain areas currently, correct?
Right, exactly. So that photo right there is from a location in eastern Nepal called Jubari, and I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, but
That's why I let you
that's
do
what.
it.
Thank you. So yeah, it's a key location for us with Plant a Red Panda Home. It's a really large area of red panda habitat that's been obviously, as you can see, decimated by deforestation. And yeah, that's some of our local partners surveying the land and preparing it for fencing and this photo right here is a new nursery we have in Panjtar that we recently established, which will cultivate high value plants for local communities, which will help with their sustainable livelihoods, but we'll also use some of the plants to reforest places like Jubari. Um, Jubari is a key location. It connects protected areas in India and Nepal. So reforesting it is one of our highest priorities. Um, the photo that you showed of the sort of intact habitat, that is one of the areas of land that Jabari is next to that we are looking to connect to other um, uh, preserved
Yeah,
forest
those
areas.
connections are really vital. I know that one of the things I don't think that we as an organization support any reforestation effort that's like massive scale as far as throwing seeds out of planes and things like that. I always kind of counter the people that talk about those with I'm not interested in planting trees. I'm interested in creating healthy forests. And I think that that's
Right.
one of the things that speaks to me about Red Panda personally and your network and your group is as we look at these images, these are local people that are being supported or on their own going out and planting trees because they know that it's important. And it's not somebody coming in just flinging seeds all over the place, right? Um, and
Yeah.
so that's something that's important to me as we find organizations to support.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. We really appreciate your support. And I mean, this is, we are working with local communities to protect the forests that are still around. Obviously, there's many places that aren't still forested. And we found that our approach needs to be holistic and um, it needs to include restoration as well, because red pandas aren't going to be able to, we're not going to have viable red panda populations if they don't have a corridor to live in, if they don't have enough space to live in. It doesn't matter. I mean, it needs to be multi-tiered. It needs to be protection and restoration. That's why Plant a Red Panda Home has become one of our bigger campaigns.
And I think if I remember on your website, it was something like 47,000 trees since you've launched it so far that you've planted.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're
That's
coming up
great.
on 50,000 trees planted in Nepal, and our goal for 2021 is to reach 100,000 trees
Great.
planted. Yeah.
Great. As we look at some of these images of reforestation and some of the local people working on that, you and I spoke briefly before we got in about the role of zoos, and you as everybody else that I know saw red pandas first at the zoos. Can you just speak a little bit? I'll pause this so we don't go on if I can. Well, can you speak just a little bit to how important zoos are for Red Panda Network?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, just to share a little story about how when I first saw a red panda, I was at the San Diego Zoo and I was probably 19. And I remember looking over and seeing what I thought might be a toddler in a costume waddling around in the enclosure. And for so many reasons, I found that confusing.
That's a really accurate description of them, though.
Yeah,
Actually,
well, and it was funny because the red panda happened to be walking on its hind legs and waddling around like, I mean, I have a 6-year-old daughter. And I remember when she was a toddler, she walked like that, and I couldn't believe. And I've always been into biology. I've always been into wildlife, and I had never heard of a red panda up until then, and I couldn't believe that this animal existed, and I hadn't heard of it, and yeah, like a lot of people, fell in love. So I mean, and I think that's a pretty good anecdote for just that kind of sort of demonstrates how someone who even is interested in conservation may have never been exposed to red pandas. And I think that's one of the biggest things that zoos do for the conservation movement is you all provide this awesome experience to not only see because we can see animals on Instagram, we can see them on social media, but I mean, you get to see them in person, and that connection is just, it's so powerful. And I mean, a lot of our supporters are people who first saw red pandas in zoos. So not only do zoos support in situ conservation by supporting in situ conservation, with donations and contributions and all these ways that zoos just directly support nonprofits, but also you just provide this amazing avenue for people to see these animals in person, develop a connection, and to want to learn more and want to get involved and want to potentially support, small organizations like us. So yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, we always, it's every year you look out my office window, and I can see some kid in wonder looking at a snow leopard or a wolf or a red panda or something like that, and that you can see that you've changed the path just a little bit on that person, and they can be young or old when you see that, and that's pretty powerful when you do get to see that, because not everybody can make it to Nepal, right? So or into one of these areas.
Definitely.
So the next slide here is putting up fence line, and so we work with Snow Leopard Trust as well, and livestock insurance and the problems of livestock may be a little bit different for your organization and theirs, because of the predator prey part of it. But it's really interesting that this lifeline that these people have, which is the food and the income and the economic impact that they have for livestock, still is a threat, right?
Yeah. So what's interesting is local people, and there may be still some people who think this, but local people they didn't know what red pandas were, and some of them actually thought red pandas were potentially dangerous and could hurt their livestock. So that was part of why red pandas would be killed on site. So yeah, these fences are actually really just to protect the seedlings from, there's a lot of grazing in livestock grazing in red panda habitat. And so this is to protect the seedlings from livestock and human encroachment. And so the fencing is actually pretty critical for us to be able to restore forests. I mean, we all know that, restoring a forest takes years. I mean, we're planting these seeds now, but we got to make sure they're protected for the long term in order to actually create a forest. So yeah, these are all local people. They are, so we work with community organizations, our local partners. And so these are members of our local partner groups. All these people, yeah, they're paid. There's actually a forest guardian there on the left in the green jacket. That's one of our forest guardians. And so, and the rest of the people are all members of the community partner group. And yeah, I mean, I think we've paid people about 1,000 days worth of work through this project. So local people have been paid about 1,000 days worth of wages.
That's great.
So, and that's direct payment. That doesn't include the other ways this campaign has helped to support sustainable livelihoods.
Yeah, so these are obviously, everybody wants to see some red pandas, right? So these are some images. Can you give us a little bit of background on? I think I've got 3 or 4 images that you sent me of these.
Yeah, and actually, I sent you this image intentionally because this was the red panda that I saw on my eco trip. Nice. in Nepal. Yeah, and yeah, this red panda at the time, and this was in 2016, I believe. It was 2017. No, 2016. So this red panda was about a year old, or 10 months to a year old, and we saw this red panda after a few days of trekking in what they call the Himalayan foothills, which is really funny because here they would be massive mountains. But because these hills are next to the Himalayas, they just call them foothills, But I mean, red panda habitat starts at like 2,500 meters. So it's like.
And I hear a whole lot of times when people go over for eco tours, they don't even see any, right? I mean, like, I hear that happens quite a bit.
It used to. Actually, we've been running at 100% sightings
nice.
for years now. Yeah,
Well, there you go. Anybody that's looking for tours, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that part of that is just because their numbers are increasing in the areas we're working, so they're easier to find. And also our forest guardians that I mentioned earlier
they
are just so good at finding them now. Yeah, like we have a great system. But
it's like you go to Madagascar and they go, oh, up around this tree, there's a gecko on the tree, and albeit it's there.
Right, yeah. Yeah, local people usually know what's going on.
So here's a few more images. Red Panda Week, or Red Panda Day, is Saturday the 19th. You all are doing a virtual event as well Saturday night, right?
Yeah, it actually technically starts Friday night because we have a couple live chats with zoos. We have one in Australia and one with a zoo in Japan. And then the bulk of the chats and events are Saturday, starting early in the morning Pacific time. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So we will make sure that we share out some of those as well for everybody that follows us and all the guests that come to the zoo.
Thank you.
And I really do want to thank you for taking the time to come out today. We do have 5 minutes or so left, and right on cue, Dr. Wyatt, who's on the line here, reached out with a question. He says, I imagine the local communities revere the forest and red panda. What types of sustainable alternative livelihoods are they most interested in as far as the people that are in these forests?
It's a great question. Our Forest Guardian program, it has been very successful. So Forest Guardians are local people that we actually hire to protect the forests. They help us with monitoring. So they go out every few months and they monitor the forest. They do anti-poaching patrolling. They remove snares and traps, and they talk to their local villagers about red pandas and tell them why conservation is so important. So we have I think we have over 100 forest guardians right now. So that's been a really big part of our work in general, and specifically our sustainable livelihoods programs.
I know some of the times that I've felt most proud to support projects was when I actually talked to the people that are like the forest guardians in the certain projects that we have. The pride that they have in being part of the solution and for their villages and for their sustainable futures is phenomenal. So that goes with what I know too. That's great to hear.
Yeah, and the ecotourism is also really successful. I mean, as long as it's done sustainably and in a way that is very respectful and that prioritizes the local communities, ecotourism can be very, very powerful. And it has been one of the most powerful ways for us to support communities and protect red pandas.
And I think what you said was really important there to kind of drill down a little bit though, is just because it's got a label ecotour does not mean that it's in any way sustainable. And as you're around the area in the world and see some of these places or some of these tours, you really see that firsthand. So yeah, I think that if anybody's doing those types of tours, finding an organization like yours that has the NGO attached to it that really, looks for a sustainable future with local people working on it is key for sure. So here's a two-part question. And I guess we can lead into it by saying that probably you don't have too much tourism this year anymore, right? So that's probably one issue that's affecting you in 2020. How about climate change and more erratic climate and weather events and things like that?
With regards to eco trips or with
red pandas themselves as a species?
Yeah, climate change is obviously a major factor. I mean, one of the most sort of obvious ways that climate change is affecting red pandas is, so obviously most people who know about red pandas know that bamboo is by far their favorite type of food. And bamboo is an interesting plant. and it's pretty temperamental, and it's a good. So one of the reasons why red pandas are considered an indicator species in the Himalayan ecoregion, where they live, is because they are so dependent on bamboo. And so when bamboo growth patterns and dispersal patterns start to change, it can be pretty noticeable through red panda behavioral changes and whatnot. So climate change is affecting bamboo dispersal, and I don't have any data on me right now off the top of my head, but essentially that is one way that we're seeing climate change impacting red panda populations, is through how it's affecting bamboo growth.
And the second part of that question was, what can somebody do? You know, we battle with this at the zoo, right? We're in Rochester, New York. Mm-hmm. Somebody comes in and they get inspired on this, you know, red panda, seeing that animal at the zoo. They come through, want to know what they can do, and they know they can donate. But after donating, there seems to be a disconnect, really, right? So what can somebody do for red panda survival besides just donating?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, joining an eco trip when we're actually able to do eco trips would be a great way to do that, but for a lot of reasons. But I mean, so red pandas are getting more popular, but there's still a lot of people that don't know about them. And sometimes I'm surprised by, you know, I had a call with someone from Facebook like last year, and they work at Facebook and they had never heard of a red panda. And I was like, wow, okay. Which was nice, because it was like, okay, like, you know, I kind of live in this red panda bubble, you know, like my, which is a great place to be, but it's not always, you know, indicative of what the rest of the world is like, and what they know about. And so helping us spread the word about red pandas in a responsible way is hugely helpful. I mean, you know, while we want to spread the word about red pandas, the red panda pet trade is definitely a concern. And, you know, because they're a smaller species and because they are smaller and they look cuddly and they look, you know, mellow, and they look like they could make good pets, they absolutely don't. And they shouldn't be pets. So we really we really want people to help us with outreach, but to make sure that they're sending the right message out there. You know, that red pandas are awesome, but let's keep them where they are in the wild, and let's do what we can to conserve them.
We have one other question, but I'm going to frame it a little bit differently. So the original question was, what are the reasons for deforestation? What are the financial challenges for local people to reforest? And I'd like to frame that in the you know, give us a little bit of hope with this project. What are the things that you've seen the people of this area starting to overcome through your projects that Red Panda Network has started conducting in this area?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, it's pretty complicated, but a lot of the deforestation comes from just sort of the results of livelihood activities. So just so deforestation, clear cutting, and habitat degradation from herders, so livestock herders, is one of the number one reasons why for forest loss in red panda habitat. So that's one of them. And then also people going into the forest to harvest, you know, wood for, you know, fuel wood, firewood, timber. So herders, again, will cut down trees and take wood for to repair and build their herder huts. And they need multiple herder huts because depending on the time of year will determine where on the mountain they will be, you know, herding with their livestock. So, so essentially it's again, people who are just supporting their families and supporting themselves, and they're just forest dependent communities because of the remote location and because of poverty, and just not enough access to sustainable livelihood opportunities. And I don't remember the second part of that question.
I think you kind of answered it without remembering. It was really about what financial challenges the local people have to reforest, and I think that you started down that path, right? Is that you're looking for sustainable income for them and creating a capacity.
Yeah, and so one of our big initiatives is to work with local herders. We have designed a herder tent. So instead of herders needing to, build these really time-intensive and physically demanding huts that require a good amount of wood to build them, a good amount of timber, and they're not very efficient as far as keeping heat in, and they require a lot of maintenance. So we worked with local herders, and we've designed this tent. And it's essentially something that they can set up and break down, so they don't have to, build multiple huts. They're way better for keeping heat in. They obviously don't require the same maintenance, and they don't require any, timber to build them and to
Phenomenal idea.
So that's one of them. We've also designed a improved cooking stove that we work with herders in supplying them with, which is much more fuel efficient, requires less fuel wood. These are just some examples of ways for people to essentially just to be set up to be able to conserve the local habitat and red pandas. I mean, we're just providing these opportunities for people because people want to do it. People want to be in harmony with the local wildlife. They want that. It's just sometimes it's not possible. And so we do what we can to make that possible.
That's a great way to end this, because I think that that's absolutely what everybody is looking for, right? So again, I want to thank you. Starting Friday night into Saturday, you all are having a couple events. So do you want to give a pitch to your website while we're here and what people can do to learn more?
Yeah, definitely. So our event, like I mentioned, starts Friday night Pacific time, and we're going to be, kind of like this. We're going to be having live chats with some conservation professionals and experts from all over the world, mostly zoo staff, and seeing the red pandas and talking about the red pandas and talking about the awesome support that zoos give to the conservation community. And we have a GiveButter page, so it's givebutter.org/IRPD20 and it's on our website. And yeah, essentially we're fundraising for Plant a Red Panda Home, which is the initiative that we spoke about before, that a lot of your photos were of. So yeah,
and also the project that we're supporting this year as well. So.
And the project that Seneca Park Zoo is supporting, exactly, which is our campaign to plant trees and to reforest core habitat and to create this continuous biological community for red pandas and all the other species that they share habitat with. So
great.
Yeah.
Well, Terrance, really appreciate it. Thank you for coming in. Best of luck Saturday with your event. And again, I just really want to thank you. We love what you all are doing, and we're happy to support you and get the word out there for red pandas. And hopefully we can create a solution with you. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for Seneca Park Zoo support. It's deeply appreciated, and yeah, thank you again.
Our pleasure. Thanks. Have a good night, everybody. And again, you can go to Seneca Park Zoo. If you want to donate through our website, we can pass it along, or to Red Panda Network's website, or stop in this week and see the red panda and talk to our staff about them. Thank you again for coming out tonight. We appreciate it. Thanks again, Terrance.
Thank you.